Hello. Hi. Um, this is the Carolyn Larrington translation. Properly orient myself here. Nice. Yeah. Oh, that is my coffee. I will be right back. No, I have my coffee. We're good to go. But yeah, when I was looking into all the stuff to get started, um, the Carolyn Larrington translation was pretty well recommended. So I figured, hey, why not, right? And Oxford Publishing had a pretty nice hardcover edition, so I thought I would treat myself. Oh my god, where's my water? There. All right. So before we get into the meat and potatoes of our story here today, let's go over a little bit about yeah. So as with a lot of, well, I read it in Swedish, so it'll be nice to hear a different version. Ah. So as with a lot of these older stories, no one's 100% sure who wrote it, but for centuries these stories weren't even written down simply because they were sort of a part of everyday life for the old Norse believers, right? So why would they write it down? They heard these stories every day. They lived these stories every day. It wasn't until the church came around, same with the old Irish stories, as we've talked about, that they started actually writing down the stories. So everything's not 100% accurate to what has been told. And honestly, differences could pop up in between tellings anyways. So from the church's version of the Edda, the first translation, I think came like the 1700s. That can't be right. It was a long time ago. Ah, I was wrong. So Snorri Sturluson, Icelandic author, put out the prose Edda sometime in the 1200s. Still a while ago, but not quite as long as I was thinking. Longer than I was thinking. Brain is having a hard time this morning. I apologize. And now, we have that was more of a prose version, less for performance, more for putting the story out, as opposed to a verse translation, which is more akin to a how it could have been performed in the past, which is where we get the Poetic Edda. The Edda begins with the seeress's prophecy. Even snoring? Yeah. Translation of older stories is always it's always complicated. After a while, things get lost. Things get misinterpreted. The misinterpretation of myth and legend is nearly as old as myth and legend itself. So the Edda begins with the seeress's prophecy, which itself begins at the beginning of everything. It goes all through the creation of the world, from the existence of Ymir, and it goes through to the end, Ragnarok. So, some light reading to start off your morning. Let me get one more sip of coffee in, and we'll get started. Hearing I ask from all the tribes, greater and lesser, the offspring of Heimdall, father of the slain, you wished me well to declare living beings' ancient stories, those I remember from furthest back. I remember giants born in early time, those nurtured me long ago. I remember 9 worlds, I remember 9 giant women, the mighty measuring tree below the earth. Early in time Ymir made his settlement. There was no sand, nor sea, nor cool waves. Earth was nowhere, nor the sky above. A void of yawning chaos, grass was there nowhere. Before the sons of Bur brought up the land's surface, those who shaped glorious Midgard, the sun shone from the south on the stone hall. Then the ground was grown over the green leek. From the south, sun, companion of the moon, drew her right hand round the sky's edge. Sun did not know where she had her hall. The stars did not know where they had their stations. The moon did not know what might he had. Then all the powers went to the thrones of fate, the sacrosanct gods, and considered this. To night and her children they gave names. Morning they named in midday, afternoon and evening, to reckon up in years. The Aesir met on Idavol plain. High they built altars and temples. They set up their forges, smithed precious things, shaped tongs and made tools. They played checkers in the meadow, and they were merry. They did not lack for gold at all, till 3 ogre girls came, all powerful women, out of giant land. Then all the powers went to the thrones of fate, the sacrosanct gods, and considered this. Who should create the lord of the dwarfs, out of Brimir's blood and from Blaine's limbs? There, Motsogner, a most famous of all dwarves, and Durin next. Many man-like figures the dwarfs made, out of earth, as Durin recounted. New moon and dark of moon, north and south, east and west, Master Thief, the Valen, Bivor, Bavor, Bomber, and Nori, Ananar, great-grandfather, and mead wolf, liquor and staff elf, wind elf and thrain, known and thorin, thror, color and wise, corpse and new advice. Now I have rightly, reign and counsel clever, reckoned up the dwarfs. Fili and Kili, foundling and Nali, Haft and Vili, Hanner and Sphere, Frar and Hornbror, Freg and Seapool, Loamfield, Yari, Oakenshield. Time it is to tally up the dwarfs and Dvalin's troop, for the children of men to trace them back to Lofar. Those who sought out Fjar's Hallstone, the dwelling of Loamfield on Irvilir. There were Dropnir and Dolgthresser, Greyhair, Mound River, Lee Plain, Glow, Skivrir, Vivrir, Scafeld, and great-grandfather. Elfinigvi, Oakenshield, Firlar and Frosty, Finn and Ginnar, to be remembered while the world endures the long list of ancestors going back to Lofar, until 3 gods strong and loving came out of that company. They found on land capable of little, Ash and Embla lacking in fate. Breath they had not, spirit they had not, blood nor bearing nor fresh complexions. Breath gave Odin, spirit gave Hanir, blood gave Lodor, and fresh complexions. An ash I know that stands, Yggdrasil it's called, a tall tree drenched with shining loam. From there came the dews which fall in the valley green. It stands always over Erd's well. From there come girls knowing a great deal, 3 from the lake standing under the tree. Erd one is called, Verdandi another. They've carved out a wooden slip, Scold the 3rd. They laid down laws. They chose lives for the sons of men, the fates of men. She remembers the first war in the world. They struck Golveg with spears. In the High One's hall they burned her. 3 times they burned her. 3 times she was reborn. Over and over, yet she lives still. Bright One they called her, wherever she came to the houses. The seer with pleasing prophecies, she practiced spirit magic. She knew Thaid. She performed as she liked. She was always a wicked woman's favorite. And all the powers went to the thrones of fate, the sacrosanct gods, and considered thus, whether the Aesir should yield the tribute, or whether all the gods should share sacrificial feasts. That one gave me a hard time for some reason, jeez. Odin hurled a spear, sped it into the host. That was war still, the first in the world. The wooden rampart of the Aesir's stronghold was wrecked. The Vanir, with a war spell, kept on trampling the plain. But all the powers went to the thrones of fate, the sacrosanct gods, and considered this. Which people had troubled the air with treachery, or given Od's girl to the giant race? Thor alone struck a blow there. Swollen with rage, he seldom sits still when he hears such a thing. The oaths broke apart, words and promises. All the solemn... I lost my spot. All the solemn pledges which had passed between them. The naming chapters aren't easy, yeah. It's like reading the first part of the fucking New Testament where they're just naming, the various offspring of various people. Okay. She knows that Heimdall's hearing is hidden under the bright-grown sacred tree. She sees, flowing down, the loam-filled flood from Father of the Slain's pledge. Do you want to know more? And what? Alone she sat outside when the old man came, the terrible one of the Aesir, and he looked her in the eyes. Why do you question me? Why do you test me? I know all about it, Odin, where you hid your eye in Mimir's famous well. Mimir drinks mead every morning, from Father of the Slain's pledge. Do you want to know more? And what? Father of Hosts chose for her rings and necklaces, treasure, wise speech, and spirits of divination. She saw widely about every world. She saw Valkyries coming from far and wide, ready to ride to the gods' realm. Skuld shouldered one shield, Skogul was another. Gun, Hild, Gondel, and Gerskogul. Now the general's ladies are counted up, Valkyries ready to ride over the earth. I saw for Balder, for the bloody god, Odin's child, his fate in store. There stood grown, higher than the plain, slender and very fair, the mistletoe. From that stem which seemed so slender, there came a dangerous grief dart. Bold started to shoot. Balder's brother was born quickly. Odin's son started killing at one night old. He never washed his hands nor combed his hair until he brought Balder's adversary to the funeral pyre. And in Fen Hall's Frigg wept for Valhall's woe. Do you want to know more? And what? A captive she saw lying under the cauldron grove, an evil-loving figure, unmistakable as Loki. There sits Sigyn, getting very little joy from her husband. Do you want to know more? And what? From the east there flows, through poison valleys, a river with knives and swords. Fearful, it is called. To the north there stood, on dark of moon plains, a hall of gold, of Sindri's lineage, and another stood on Nevercold, the beer hall of a giant named Brimir. A hall she saw standing far from the sun, on Corpse Strand. Its doors look north. Poison drops fall through the roof vents. The hall is woven of serpent spines. There she saw wading in turbid streams, false oath swearers and murderers, and the seducer of another man's close confidant, where Nidhogg sucks the corpses of the dead. A wolf tears at men. Do you want to know more? And what? In the east sat the old woman in Ironwood, and gave birth there to Fenrir's offspring. One of them in trollish shape, bent shall be the snatcher of the moon. It gluts itself on doomed men's lives, reddens the gods' dwelling with crimson blood. Sunshine becomes black all next summers, weather all vicious. Do you want to know more? And what? He sat on the mound and struck his harp, the giantess's herdsman, cheerful Egther. Near him crowed? Yeah. Crowed in Gallows Wood, that bright red rooster who is called Fiolar. Golden comb crowed near the Aesir. He awakens the warriors of the Fathers of Hosts Hall, and another crows below the earth, the sooty red cock in the halls of hell. Garm bays loudly before Gnippa cave. The fetter will break, and the ravener run free. Much wisdom she knows, I see further ahead, to the mighty doom of the gods, of the victory gods. Brother will fight brother and be his slayer. Sister's sons will violate the kinship bond. Hard it is in the world, whoresome abounds. Axe age, sword age, shields are cleft asunder. Wind age, wolf age, before the world plunges headlong, no man will spare another. The sons of Mim are at play, and the measuring tree is kindled. At the resounding Gjallar horn, Heimdall blows loudly. His horn is in the air. Odin speaks with Mim's head. The ancient tree groans, and the giant lets loose. Yggdrasil shudders, the tree standing upright. Now Garm bays loudly before the Gnippa cave. The fetter will break and the ravener run free. Much wisdom she knows I see further ahead, to the mighty doom of the gods, of the victory gods. Grim drives from the east, heaves his shield before him. The great serpent writhes in giant rage. The serpent churns the waves, the eagle shrieks in anticipation. Pale beaked he rips the corpse. Naglfar breaks free. The ship journeys from the east. Muspel's troops are coming over the ocean, and Loki steers. All the giant sons advance along the Ravener. Billist's brother goes in company with them. What disturbs the Aesir? What disturbs the elves? All giant land is roaring. The Aesir are in council. The dwarfs groan before their rocky doors. Wise ones of the mountain wall, do you want to know more? And what? Surt comes from the south with branches ruin. The slaughter god's son glances from his sword. Rocky cliffs clash together, and the troll women are abroad. Heroes tread the hell road, and the sky splits apart. Then Frigg's second sorrow comes about, when Odin advances to fight against the wolf, and Beli's bright slayer against Surt. And Frigg, dear beloved, must fall. Then comes victory, father's strong son, Vidar, to battle the beast of slaughter. With his hand he sends to Loki's son's heart, his sword to stab, and his father is avenged. Then comes Hlodin's glorious boy, Odin's son, advances to fight the serpent. He strikes in wrath Midgard's protector. All men must abandon their homesteads. 9 steps Fjorgen's child takes, exhausted from the serpent, which fears no shame. The sun turns black, land sinks into the sea, the bright stars vanish from the sky. Steam rises up in the conflagration. Hot flame plays high against heaven itself. Now Garm boys loudly before the Gnippa cave. The fetter will break, and the ravener run free. Much wisdom she knows, I see further ahead, to the mighty doom of gods, of the victory gods. She sees, coming up a second time, earth from the ocean, eternally green. The waterfalls plunge, an eagle soars above them, over the mountain hunting fish. The Aesir find one another in Edaval, and they converse about the mighty earth girdler. In Fimbultur's ancient ruins, they will be found again in the grass, and the wonderful golden checkers, those which they possessed in the bygone days. Without sowing, the fields will grow, all evil will be healed, Balder will come. Bald and Balder will set down the Hrop's victory homesteads. The slaughter gods are well. Do you want to know more? And what? And Hanar will choose a wooden slip for prophecy, and 2 brother sons build a settlement in the wide wind realm. Do you want to know more? And what? A hall she sees standing, fairer than the sun, thatched with gold at Gimle. There the noble fighting bands will dwell and enjoy the days of their lives in pleasure. There comes the shadow dark dragon flying, the gleaming serpent, up from the dark of Moon Hills. Nidhogg flies over the plain. In his pinions he carries corpses. Now she will sink down. That's the Seeress's prophecy. Pretty much everyone's gonna have a great time. Nothing will go wrong. Oh. So the next section is the sayings of the High One. Alright, hold on. I got like 20 different things vibrating right now. Give me a second here. Yeah, probably one of the oldest monsters. Probably. Oh. I see. I had to take a second for everything to calm down over here. Yeah, probably. I just thought the Nidhogg is sort of depicted as more of a dragon, isn't it? Kinda in that same vein. Just thought the dragons in the old Norse stories were interesting beings. Hmm. So there's this next section is kind of more of like a social wisdom thing. Winged serpent dragonish, yeah. Yeah. Sayings of the High One. I think this is kind of a longer section, but we'll give it a go. See how we're feeling. All the doorways, before one enters, should be looked around, should be spied out. Can't be known for certain where enemies are sitting in the hall ahead. Blessed be the givers! The guest has come in. Where is he going to sit? He's in great haste. The one who by the log stack is trying to try his luck. He's going to try. So far we're off to a bad start. Fire is needful for someone who's come in and who's chilled to the knee. Food and clothing are necessary for the man who's journeyed over the mountains. Water is needful for someone who comes to a meal, a towel and a warm welcome, a friendly disposition if he could get it, speech and silence in return. Wits are needful for someone who wanders widely. Anything will pass at home. And he becomes a laughingstock, the man who knows nothing and sits among the wise. About his intelligence no man should be boastful, rather cautious of mind. When a wise and silent man comes to a homestead, blame seldom befalls the weary. For no more dependable friend can a man ever get than a store of common sense. Be careful, guest, who comes to a meal. Keep silent, with hearing finely attuned. He listens with his ears and looks about with his eyes. So every wise man spies out what's ahead. He's lucky, the man who can get himself praise and goodwill. Very difficult it is when a man lays claim to what's in another's breast. He's lucky, the man who keeps in himself praise and wit while he lives. For bad advice, men often received from another's breast. No better burden a man bears on the road than a store of common sense. Better than riches it will seem in an unfamiliar place, such as the resort of the wretched. No better burden a man bears on the road than a store of common sense. No worse journey provision could he carry over the plain than overmuch drinking of ale. It isn't as good as is said to be ale for the sons of men. For the more a man drinks, the less he knows about his own mind. Fuck, been there. The forgetfulness heron it's called. who hovers over ale drinking. He steals a man's mind. With his bird's feathers I was fettered to the court of Gunlaud. Drunk I was more than drunk at wise Fjallar's. That's the best about ale drinking, that afterwards every man gets his mind back again. Been there, done that. Silent and thoughtful a prince's son should be, and bold in fighting, cheerful and merry every man should be, until he comes to death. The cowardly man thinks he'll live forever if he keeps away from fighting, but old age won't grant him a truce, even if spears spare him. The fool stares when he comes on a visit. He mutters to himself or hovers about, but it's all up with him. If he gets a swig of drink, the man's mind is exposed. Only that man who wanders widely and has journeyed a great deal knows what sort of mind each man controls. He who's sharp in his wits. Let no man hold on to the cup, but drink mead in moderation. Let him say what's necessary, or be silent. No man will scold you, because you go off early to bed. The greedy man, unless he guards against his tendency, will eat himself into lifelong trouble. Often, when he comes among the wise, the foolish man's stomach is laughed at. Cattle know when they ought to go home, and then they leave the pasture, but the foolish man never figures the measure of his own stomach. He's a wretched man, of evil disposition, the one who makes fun of everything. He doesn't know the one thing he ought to know, that he is not devoid of faults. The stupid man stays awake all night and worries about it. Well, I guess I'm stupid. He's tired out when the morning comes, and all is just as bad as it was. The foolish man thinks that everyone is his friend who laughs with him. He doesn't notice, though, that they say nasty things about him when he sits among the wise. The foolish man thinks that everyone is his friend who laughs with him. Then he finds when he comes to the assembly that he has few to speak on his behalf. The foolish man thinks he knows everything if he cowers in a corner. He doesn't know what he can say in return if people ask him questions. The foolish man in company does best if he stays silent. No one will know that he knows nothing unless he talks too much. But the man who knows nothing does not know even if he is talking too much. Speaking of drunk, thank you for the hydrate. Perfect. Wise he esteems himself who knows how to question and how to answer as well. The sons of men cannot keep secret about what's going around about folk. That was a weird sentence. And quite enough baseless blather comes from a man never silent. A quick tongue, unless it's held in check, often talks itself into trouble. Into a laughing stock no man should make another, if he comes to visit the household. Many a man seems wise if he isn't asked questions, and he manages to lurk unscathed. Wise that man seems who retreats from when one guest is insulting another. The man who mocks at a feast doesn't know for sure whether he shoots off his mouth amid enemies. Many men are devoted to one another, and yet they fight at feasts. Amongst men there will always be strife, guests squabbling with guests. An early meal a man should usually eat, unless he is visiting friends. He sits and gazes round hungrily, acts as if he's starving, and doesn't make conversation. It's a great detour to a bad friend's house, even though he lives on the route. But to a good friend's house the way lies straight, even though he lives far off. A man must go, he must not remain a guest always in one place. Beloved man is loathed if he sits too long in someone else's hall. A farm of your own is better, even if small. Wasn't even a crazy name in that sentence. Wow. I think more coffee is the answer. A farm of your own is better, even if small. Everyone's someone at home. Though he has 2 goats in a twig-roofed room, that is still better than begging. Farm of your own is better, even if small. Everyone's someone at home. A man's heart bleeds when he has to beg for food for himself at mealtimes. From his weapons on open land, no man should step 1 pace away. To have a farm of... Right. Oh. That'd be nice. From his weapons on open land, no man should step 1 pace away, for it can't be known for certain out on the road, when a man might have need of his spear. I never found a generous man, nor one so unstingy with food that he wouldn't accept what was given, or one so open-handed with possessions that he disliked a gift when offered. His piled-up property a man shouldn't go without. What you meant for those you love is often saved for those you hate. Much goes worse than is expected. With weapons and gifts, friends should gladden one another, those which can be seen on them. Mutual givers and receivers are friends for longest, if the friendship keeps going well. To his friend a man should be a friend, and repay gifts with gifts. Laughter men should accept with laughter, but return deception for a lie. To a friend a man should be a friend, and to his friend's friend too, but no man should be a friend to the friend of his enemy. You know, you're a friend if you've a friend whom you really trust, and from whom you want nothing but good. You should mix your soul with his and exchange gifts. Go and see him often. You have another whom you don't trust, but from whom you want nothing but good. Speak fairly to him, but think falsely, and repay treachery with a lie. Again, concerning the one you don't trust, and whose mind you suspect, you should laugh with him and disguise your thoughts. A gift should be repaid with a like one. I was young once. I traveled alone, and I found myself going astray. Rich I thought myself when I met someone else, for man is the joy of man. Generous and brave men live the best. Seldom do they harbor sorrow, but the cowardly man is afraid of everything. The miser always worries when he gets gifts. My clothes I gave out in the field to 2 wooden men. Champions they thought themselves when they had clothing. The naked man is despised. The fir tree withers as stands on the farmstead. Neither bark nor needles protect it. So when it is the man whom no one loves, how should he live for long? Hotter than fire between bad friends burns fondness for 5 days, but it dies down when the 6th day comes, and all that friendship goes to bad. A man need not give only a big gift. Often you buy praise with little. With half a loaf and a tilted cup, I've got myself a companion. Of small sands, of small seas, small are the minds of men. Thus all men aren't equally wise, half not, everywhere. Averagely wise a man ought to be, never too wise, for those men have the best of life who know a fair amount. Averagely wise a man ought to be, never too wise, for a wise man's heart is seldom cheerful, if he who owns it's too wise. Averagely wise a man ought to be, never too wise. Let no one know his fate beforehand, for he'll have the most carefree spirit. One brand takes fire from another until it is consumed, a flame's kindled by flame. One man becomes clever by talking with another, but foolish through being reserved. Should get up early the man who means to take another's life or property. Seldom does the loafing wolf catch the ham, nor a sleeping man victory. He should get up early the man who has few workers, and set about his work with thought. Much gets held up for the man sleeping in the morning. Wealth is half won by activity. Of dry wood and thatching bark, a man can know the measure, and of the wood which can get one through a quarter or a half year. Washed and fed, a man should rise to the assembly, though he may not be very well dressed. Of his shoes and breeches no man should be ashamed, nor of his horse, though he doesn't have a good one. He snaps and cranes his neck when he comes to the sea, the eagle to the ancient ocean. So does a man who comes among the multitude, and has few people to speak for him. Asking and answering every man should do. He who wants to be reputed intelligent, one shall know, the second shall not. The whole world knows, if three know. Every man wise in counsel should use his power in moderation. When he mingles with the brave, he finds that no one is boldest of all. For those words which one man says to another, he often gets paid back. Much too early I've come to many places, but sometimes too late. The ale was all drunk, or sometimes it wasn't yet brewed. The unpopular man seldom hits on the right moment. Here and there I might be invited home when I had no need of food at that mealtime, where 2 hams would be hanging in a trusty friend's house when I had already eaten one. Fire is best for the sons of men, and the sight of the sun is health, if a man can manage it, living without disgrace. No man is completely wretched, even if he has bad luck. One man is blessed with sons, another with kinsmen, another has enough money, another feels good from his deeds. It is better to live than not to be alive. It's the living man who gets the cow. I saw fire blaze up for the wealthy man. He was dead outside the door. The lame man rides a horse. The handless man drives a herd. The deaf man fights and succeeds. To be blind is better than to be burnt. A corpse is of no use to anyone. A son is better, even if he is born late, when the father is dead. Seldom do memorial stones stand by the wayside, unless one kinsman raises them for another. 2 are destroyers of one. The tongue is the head slayer. Hidden under every fur coat, I expect to find a hand. Night is eagerly awaited by him who can rely on his provisions. Short are a ship's yards. Changeable are autumn nights, many kinds of weather in 5 days, and more in 1 month. The man who knows nothing does not know this, that many are fooled by money. One man is rich, another is not rich. You should not be blamed for that. Cattle die, kinsmen die, the self must also die. But the glory of reputation never dies, for the man who can get himself a good one. Cattle die, kinsmen die, the self must also die. I know one thing which never dies, the reputation of each dead man. Fully stocked folds I saw for Fitton's sons. Now they carry a beggar's staff. Wealth is like the twinkling of an eye. It is the most unreliable of friends. The foolish man, if he manages to get money or the love of a woman, his arrogance increases, but not his common sense. On he goes, deeply sunk in delusion. That is now proved, what you ask of the runes, of divine origin which the great gods made, and mighty sage colored, when it is best for him if he stays silent. At evening should the day be praised, the woman when she is cremated, the blade when it is tested, the girl when she is married, the ice when it is crossed, the ale when it is drunk. In a wind one should cut wood, in fine weather row on the sea, in darkness chat with a girl. Many are day's eyes. Use a ship to glide along, a shield for defense, a sword for blow, and a girl for kisses. By the fire one should drink ale, one should slide over the ice, buy a lean horse and a rusty blade. Fatten the horse at home, and the dog at someone else's. The words of a girl no one should trust, nor what a woman says, for on a whirling wheel their hearts are made, deceit lodged in their breasts. The view of the ancient Norse did not reflect the views of the reader. A breaking bough, a burning flame, a gaping wolf, a cawing crow, a grunting pig, a rootless tree, a rising wave, a boiling kettle, a flying dart, a falling wave, ice of one night, a coiled serpent, the bed talk of a woman, or a broken sword, the playing of a bear, or a king's child, this is just a list of stuff, isn't it? A sick calf, an independent-minded slave, a seer who prophesies good, a newly killed dead man, an early sown field let no man trust. Okay. Nor too soon in a sun. The weather rules the field and the brains the sun. Both of them are risky. A brother's killer if met on the road, a house half burned to swift horse. The mount is useless if a leg breaks. Let no man be so trusting as to trust all these. Such is the love of a woman, of those with false minds. It's like driving a horse without spiked shoes over slippery ice. A frisky 2-year-old badly broken in, or like steering in a stiff wind a rudderless boat, or trying to catch when you're lame a reindeer on a thawing hillside. Ooh, that does sound risky. Fuck. I can speak frankly since I have known both. Men's hearts are fickle toward women. When we speak most fairly, then we think most falsely. That entraps the wise mind. He has to speak fairly and offer precious things. The man who wants a lady's love. Praise the body of the radiant woman. He who flatters gets. You guys written this down? Some solid dating advice from thousands of years ago. No man should ever reproach another for being in love. Often the wise man is seized, when the foolish man is not, by a desire arousing appearance. Not at all should one man reproach another for what is common among men. Among men's sons are wise. The wise are made into fools by that mighty force, desire. The mind alone knows what lies near the heart. He is alone with his spirit. No sickness is worse for the sensible man than to find no contentment in anything. That I found when I sat among the reeds, waited for my beloved, body and soul the shrewd girl was. Body and soul the shrewd girl was to me, nonetheless I didn't win her. Billing's girl I found on the bed, sleeping, sun radiant. No nobleman's pleasure could I imagine, except to live beside that body. Towards eating... My brain. Why, brain, why? Towards evening, Odin, you should come again, if you want to talk a girl round. All will be lost unless only we know of such shamelessness together. Back I turned, and thought that I loved, turned back from my certain pleasure. This I thought, that I would love all her heart and her love play. When next I came, all the keen warrior band were awake, with burning torches and barricading wood. Such a wretched path was determined for me. And near morning, when I came again, and the hall company were asleep, a bitch I found, then tied on the bed, that good woman. Many a good girl, when you know her well, is fickle of heart towards men. I found that out when I tried to seduce that's sagacious woman into shame. Every degradation the clever woman devised for me, and I got nothing from the girl at all. It's starting to get a bit weird, isn't it? At home, a man should be cheerful and merry with his guest. He should be shrewd about himself, with a good memory and eloquent if he wants to be very wise. Often should he speak of good things. A nincompoop that man is called, who can't say much for himself. That is the hallmark of a moron. I visited the old giant, now I've come back. I didn't get much there from being silent. With many words I spoke to my advantage in Sutung's halls. Gunlod gave me on her golden throne a drink of the precious mead. A poor reward I let her have in return for open-heartedness, for her sorrowful spirit. With Ratty the augur's mouth I made space for myself, and made it gnaw through the rock. Over me and under me went the giant's path. Thus I risked my head. That bargain-bought beauty I made good use of. The wise lack for little. For Orderer had now come up to the rim of men's sanctuaries. I am in doubt as to whether I would have come back from the giant's courts if I had not used Gunlod, that good woman, and put my arms about her. The next day the frost giants went to ask for the High One's advice in the High One's hall. They asked about Bulwark, whether he was good amongst the gods, or whether Sutung had slaughtered him. I think Odin will have sworn a sacred ring oath. How can his pledge be trusted? He left Sutung defrauded of the drink, and made Gunlod weep. It is time to declaim from the sage's high seat at Erd's spring. I saw and was silent. I saw and I considered. I heard the speech of men. I heard talk of runes, nor were they silent about interpretation at the High One's hall, in the High One's hall. Thus I heard them speak. I advise you, Lord Fafnir, to take this advice. It will be useful if you learn it. Do you good if you have it. Don't get up at night, except if you're on watch, or if you need to visit somewhere outside. I advise you, Lord Fafnir, take this advice. It will be useful to you if you learn it. Do you good if you have it. In a witch's arms you should never sleep. So she encloses you with her limbs, to bring it about that you won't care about the assembly or the king's business. You won't want food, nor the society of people. Sorrowful, you'll go to sleep. I advise you, Lord Fafnir, take this advice. It will be useful if you learn it. Do you good if you have it. Never entice another man's wife to you as a close confidant. I advise you, Lord Fafnir, take this advice. It will be useful if you learn it. Do you good if you have it. On mountain or fjord, should you feel like traveling, make sure you've enough food along. I advise you, Lord Fafnir, take this advice. It will be useful if you learn it. Do you good if you have it. Never let a wicked man know of any misfortune you suffer, for from a wicked man you will never get a good thought in return. I saw a man terribly wounded by a wicked woman's words. A malicious tongue brought about his death, and by no means through proven guilt. I advise you, Lord Fafnir, take this advice. It will be useful if you learn it. Do you good if you have it. You know, if you've a friend, one whom you trust well, go to see him often. where brushwood grows and tall grass on the road which no man treads. I advise you, Lord Fafnir, take this advice. It will be useful if you learn it, do you good if you have it. Draw to you a good man in friendly intimacy, and learn helpful charms all your life. I advise you, Lord Fafnir, take this advice. It will be useful if you learn it, do you good if you have it. With your friend, never be the first to tear fine friendship asunder. Sorrow eats the heart if you don't have someone to whom to tell all your thoughts. I advise you, Lord Fafnir, take this advice. It will be useful if you learn it, do you good if you have it. You should never bandy words with a stupid fool. For the wicked man you will never get a good return, but a good man will make you assured of favor through his praise. That is the true mingling of kinship when a man can tell someone all his thoughts. Anything is better than to be fickle. He is no true friend who only says pleasant things. I advise you, Lord Fafnir, take this advice. It will be useful if you learn it, do you good if you have it. Not 3 quarrelsome words should you bandy with an inferior. Often the better retreats when the worse man fights. I advise you, Lord Fafnir, take this advice. It will be useful if you learn it, do you good if you have it. Be neither a shoemaker nor a shaft maker for anyone but yourself. If the shoe is badly fitting, or if the shaft be crooked, then curses are called down upon you. I advise you, Lord Fafnir, to take this advice. It will be useful if you learn it, do you good if you have it. Where you recognize evil, call it evil, and give no truce to your enemies. I advise you, Lord Fafnir, to take this advice. It will be useful if you learn it, do you good if you have it. Never be made glad by wickedness, but please yourself with good things. I advise you, Lord Fafnir, to take this advice. It will be useful if you learn it, do you good if you have it. You should never look upwards in battle. Men's sons come from madmen, and people may try to bewitch you. I advise you, Lord Fafnir, to take this advice. It will be useful if you learn it, do you good if you have it. If you want to talk a good woman into secret love with you, and to get pleasure from her, make fair promises and keep them well. No man tries of good if he can get it. No man tires. Words. I advise you, Lord Fafnir, to take this advice. It will be useful if you learn it, do you good if you have it. I tell you to be cautious, but not overcautious. Be most wary of ale, and of another's wife. And thirdly, lest thieves beguile you. I advise you, Lord Fafnir, to take this advice. It will be useful if you learn it, do you good if you have it. Never hold up to scorn or mockery a guest or a wanderer. Often they don't know for certain, they who sit inside, whose kin those newcomers are. No man is so good that he has no blemish, nor so bad that he is good for nothing. I advise you, Lord Fafnir, to take this advice. It will be useful if you learn it, do you good if you have it. At a gray-haired sage you should never laugh. Often what the old say is good. Often from a wrinkled bag come judicious words. What's that? That's one way of putting it, yeah. And the one who hangs around with the hides and skulls among the skins, and lurks about the low-born. I advise you, Lord Fafnir, to take this advice. It will be useful if you learn it, do you good if you have it. Don't bark at your guests or drive them from your gate. Treat the ingredient. Ooh. That felt like a bit of a slip, huh? Treat the indigent well. Indigent? Indigent? I don't know. Mighty is that door bar which has to move aside to open up for everyone. Ring a bell, there will be called down on you a curse in every limb. I advise you, Lord Fafnir, to take this advice. It will be useful if you learn it, do you good if you have it. Where you drink ale, choose yourself earth's power. For earth soaks up drunkenness, and fire works against sickness. Oak against constipation, an ear of corn against witchcraft, the hall against household strife, for hated the moon should be invoked, earthworms for inflamed parts, and runes against evil. Land must take up the flood. I know that I hung on the windswept tree 9 long nights, wounded with a spear dedicated to Odin, myself to myself, on that tree of which no man knows from where its roots run. With no bread did they refresh me, nor a drink from a horn. Downwards I peered. I took up the runes, screaming I took them, and I fell back from there. 9 mighty spells I learnt from the famous son of Bolthar, Vestla's father. I got a drink, the precious mead, I, soaked from Orderir. I began to quicken and be wise, and to grow and to prosper. One word from another word found a word for me. One deed from another deed found a deed for me. The runes you must find in meaningful letters, very great letters, very stiff letters, which the mighty sage colored, and the huge powers made, and the rune master of the gods carved out. Odin among the Aesir, and Dane among the elves, Dvalin among the dwarves, Asvid among the giants. I myself carved some. Do you know how to carve? Do you know how to interpret? Do you know how to color? Do you know how to question? Do you know how to ask? Do you know how to sacrifice? Do you know how to dispatch? Do you know how to slaughter? Better not to pray than to sacrifice too much. One gift always calls for another. Better not dispatch than too many slaughtered. So Thun carved before the close of nation's glory, nation's history. Those words aren't even close. Wow. Where he rose up when he came back. I know those spells which ruler's wife doesn't know, nor any man's son. Help, one is called, and that will help you against lawsuits and sorrows and every sort of anxiety. I know a second one which the sons of men need, those who want to live as physicians. I know a third one if there's great need for me, that my furious enemies are fetid. On the edges of my foes I can blunt, neither weapons nor cudgels will bite for them. I know a fourth one if men put bonds upon my limbs. I can chant so that I can walk free, fetters spring from my feet, and chains from my hands. I know a fifth one if I see, shot in malice, an arrow fly amid the army. I cannot fly so hard that I cannot hinder it if I see it with my eyes. I know a sixth one if a man wounds me, using roots of the sap-filled wood. And that man who conjured to harm me, the evil consumes him, not me. I know a seventh one if I see towering flames in the hall about my companions. It can't burn so widely that I can't counteract it. I know the spells to chant. I know an eighth one, which is most useful for everyone to acquire, where hatred flares up between the sons of warriors, then I can quickly bring settlement. I know a ninth one if I am in need. If I must save my ship when afloat, the wind I can quieten upon the wave, and lull all the sea to sleep. I know a 10th one if I see witches playing up in the air. I can bring it about that they wander astray from their shapes left at home, from their minds left at home. I know a 11th one if I have to lead long loyal friends into battle. Under the shields I chant, and they journey confidently, safely to the battle, safely from the battle, safely they come back from everywhere. I know a 12th one if I see, up in a tree, a dangling corpse in a noose. I can so carve and color the runes that the man walks and talks with me. I know a 13th one if I must pour water over a young warrior. He will not fall, though he goes into battle, before swords that man will not sink. I know a 14th one if I reckon up the gods before a group of men. Of Aesir and elves I know every detail. Few are not wise, know that. Few who are not wise know that. I know a 15th one, which the dwarf Theodre chanted before Delling's doors. Power he sang for the Aesir, and the advancement for the elves, thoughtfulness, the Hroptator. I know a 16th one, if I want to have all a clever woman's heart and love play. I can turn the thought of a white-armed woman and change her mind entirely. I know a 17th one, that any young woman will scarcely want to shun me. Of those spells, Lord Fafnir, you will long be in want. Though they'd be good for you if you get them, useful if you learn them, handy if you have them. I know an 18th, which I shall never teach to any girl or any man's wife. It's always better when just one person knows, that follows at the end of the spell. Except that one woman who embraces me in her arms, or who may be my sister. Now the High One's song is recited in the High One's hall, very useful to the sons of men, quite useless to the sons of men. Luck to him who recited, luck to him who knows. May he benefit, he who learnt it, luck to those who listened. Ooh. It was a long one, wow. I definitely need to take a drink of water after that. Ah. Let me see. Let's see how long this section is. No. And so this next section is titled Vafthrudnir's sayings. In this section, let's see. Odin continues to be characterized by his obsessive quest for wisdom. So this next section is people are asking questions and riddles to one another. So it's kind of a back and forth section here. It starts with Odin and Frigg, and then Vafthrudnir. Vafthrudnir comes along and starts going back and forth with Odin. Here, maybe if I read this little about section here, it'll make more sense. Trick question with which Odin wins the contest seems to be a favorite of his, since he also uses it to secure victory in a riddle contest against King Heidrek in Heidrek's saga. Vafthrudnir's questions elicit simple mythological facts, the names of the horses who draw the day and the night, the name of the river which divides giants and gods, of the field on which the battle of Ragnarok will be fought. Odin's questions are more pointed, draws out the history of the universe, its past and present, culminating in questions about the future and Ragnarok. Some scholars have speculated Odin's real aim is to discover his own fate. Once he hears about the wolf, he brings the contest to a speedy end with his unanswerable question. I would like to hear this unanswerable question. Yeah, let's go with that. Okay. Odin said, "Advise me now, Frigg, for I long to journey to visit Vafthrudnir, with great curiosity to contend in ancient matters with that all-wise giant." And Frigg said, "Rather keep the father of hosts at home in the courts of the gods, for I know no giant to be as powerful as Vafthrudnir is." Odin said, "Much I have traveled, much I have tried out, much have I tested the powers. This I want to know, what kind of company is found in Vafthrudnir's hall." Frigg said, "Journey safely, come back safely, be safe on the way. May your mind be sufficient when, father of men, you speak with the giant." And Odin went to try the wisdom of the all-wise giant. The hall he came, which Im's father owned. Odin went inside, and Odin said, "Greetings, Vafthrudnir. Now I have come to the hall to see you in person. This I want to know first, whether you are a wise or very wise giant." Vafthrudnir said, "What man is this who addresses me in hostile fashion in my hall? May you not come out of our halls alive, unless you should be the wiser one." Odin said, "Gagnrad I am called now, for I have come walking, thirsty to your hall, in need of hospitality and of your welcome. I have journeyed long, giant." Why, Gagnrad, do you speak thus from the floor? Come take a seat in the hall. Then we shall test which one knows more, the guest or the old sage. The poor man who comes to the wealthy one should speak when needful or be silent. If he be too talkative, I think will bring bad results when one comes from the cold-ribbed man. Tell me, Gagnrad, since on the hall floor you want to try your skill, from that horse is called who draws every day over mankind. Shining Mane, the Shining One is called, who draws day over mankind. The best of horses, he is held among the Hrid Goths. Always that horse's mane gleams. Tell me, Gagnrad, since on the hall floor you want to try your skill, what horse is called, who from the east draws night to the beneficent powers. Frostmane he is called, who draws every night to the beneficent powers. Foam from his bit he lets fall every morning, from there dew comes to the valleys. Tell me, Gagnrad, since on the hall floor you want to try your skill, what that river is called which divides the land between the sons of giants and the gods. Ifing the river is called which divides the land between the sons of giants and the gods. Freely it will flow through all time. Ice never forms on the river. Tell me, Gagnrad, since on the hall floor you want to try your skill, what that plain is called where in battle Surt and the good-tempered gods will meet. Vigrid is the plain called where in battle Surt and the good-tempered gods will meet. 100 leagues it is in each direction. That is the field ordained for them. Wise you are, guest. Come to the giant's bench, and we will speak together in the seat. We shall wager our heads in the hall. Guest, on our wisdom. Tell me this one thing, if your mind is sufficient, and you, Vafthrudnir, know. From where the earth came or the sky above first, O wise giant? From Ymir's flesh, The earth was shaped, and the mountains from his bones, the sky from the skull of the frost-cold giant, and the sea from his blood. Fucking metal. Tell me the second thing, if your mind is sufficient, and you, Vafthrudnir, know, from where the moon came, so that it journeys over men, and likewise the sun. Mundalfari he is called, the father of moon, and likewise of sun. They must circle through the sky every day to count the years for men. And tell me this third thing, since you are said to be wise, and you, Vafthrudnir, know, from where, where day comes from, he who passes over mankind, or night with his new moons. Delling he is called, he is day's father, and night was born of Nor. New moon and dark of the moon, efficient powers made to count the years for men. Tell me this fourth thing, since you are said to be wise, and you, Vafthrudnir, know, from where winter came, or warm summer, first among the wise powers. Wind cool he is called, winter's father, and mild one, the father of summer. Tell me this fifth thing, since you are said to be wise, and you, Vafthrudnir, know. Who is the eldest of the Aesir, or of Ymir's descendants in bygone days? Uncountable winters before the earth was made, then Brigelmir was born. Throdgelmir was his father, and Algrimir his grandfather. Tell me this sixth thing, since you are said to be wise, and you, Vafthrudnir, knows, from where Algrimir came from the sons of giants, first the wise giant. Out of Elivagar sprayed poison drops, so they grew until a giant came of them. From there arose all our clan, thus they are always terrifying. Tell me this seventh thing, since you are said to be wise, and you, Vafthrudnir, know, how the children, that fierce giant, when he had no sport with giantess. They said that under the frost giant's arm, a girl and a boy grew together, 1 foot with the other of the wise giant, begot a 6-headed son. Jesus Christ. Tell me this eighth thing, since you are said to be wise, and you, Vafthrudnir, knows. What you first remember, or what you know to be earliest, you are all-wise, giant. Uncountable winters before the world was made, when Brigelmir was born, that I remember first when the wise giant was first laid in his coffin. Tell me this ninth thing, since you are said to be wise, and you, Vafthrudnir, know, where the wind comes from, which blows over the waves, which men never see itself. Carrion Swallower he is called, who sits at heaven's end, in giant eagle shape. From his wings, they say, the wind blows over all men. Tell me this 10th thing, since all the fate of gods you, Vafthrudnir, knows. From where Njord came to the sons of the Aesir, he rules over very many temples and sanctuaries. He is not raised among the Aesir. In Vanheim, the wise powers made him, and gave him as hostage to the gods. At the doom of men, he will come back home among the wise Vanir. Tell me that 11th thing, where men fight in the courts every day. All the Einherjar fight in Odin's courts every day. They choose the slain and rise from the battle. Then they sit the more at peace together. Tell me this 12th thing, why all the fate of the gods you, Vafthrudnir, knows, the secrets of the giants, and of all the gods, tell most truly, all-wise giant. Of the secrets of the giants and all of the gods, I can tell truly, for I have been into every world. 9 worlds I have traveled through to mist hell, where men die out of hell. Much I have traveled, much I have tried out, much I have tested the powers which humans will survive when the famous mighty winter is over among them. Life in Lifthrasser, and they will hide in Holdmimir's wood. They will have the morning dew for food. From them generations will spring. Much I have traveled, much I have tried out, much I have tested the powers. From where will a sun come to the smooth heaven when Fenrir has destroyed this one? Elf Radiance will bear a daughter before Fenrir destroys her. She shall ride when the powers die, the girl on her mother's path. Much I have traveled, much I have tried out, much I have tested the powers. Who are those girls who glide over the sea? Wise in spirit they journey. 3 mighty rivers flow over the settlement of Mogthrisser's girls. Theirs are the only protective spirits in this world, although they were raised among giants. Much I have traveled, much I have tried out, much have I tested the powers, which Aesir shall rule over the gods' possessions when Surt flare is slacked. Vidar and Vali will live in the gods' sanctuaries when Surt's fire is slacked. Modi and Magni shall have Mjolnir and demonstrate battle strength. Much have I traveled, much have I tried out, much have I tested the powers. What will Odin's life's end be when the powers are torn apart? The wolf will swallow the father of men. Vidar will avenge this. The cold jaws of the wolf he will sunder in battle. Much have I traveled, much have I tried out, much have I tested the powers. What did Odin say into his son's ear before he mounted the pyre? No man knows what you said in bygone days into your son's ear. With doomed mouth I've spoken my ancient lore about the fate of the gods. I've been contending with Odin in words of wisdom. He'll always be the wisest of beings. Boy, really kind of sucked his dick at the end there, huh? That was kind of an interesting section. Us getting kind of the lowdown of the history and the future for a nice little question and a little Q&A section between Vafthrudnir, the giant, and Odin, the All-Father. Let me take a quick break. I will be right back. Oh, do I not have a BRB? No, I do. It's right here. Let me change the size. Thank you. Thank you. I shall return. Excellent. I'm really enjoying reading the Edda. It's an interesting work, even if it may not be, 100% accurate to how the stories used to go. All these little uh, bits and bobs about the long distant past. So what is next section? The next section is Grimnir's sayings. Okay. So here's the about section of Grimnir's sayings. From what I can tell, it's another interesting little bit that more concerns the topography of the realm of the gods than it does the history. The prose introduction to Grimnir's sayings gives an unexpected account of Odin and Frigg as rival patrons to kingly candidates, the lost sons of King Hraudung. Odin uses cunning to give his foster son an unfair advantage, and then precipitates a matrimonial quarrel by pointing out the different fates which have overtaken their proteges. Frigg is swift to get her own back, accusing Odin's favorite of stinginess, a serious charge given the near sacred character which Germanic societies ascribed to hospitality. Frigg duplicitously ensures that Geirrod does mistreat his guest, relying on Odin's practice of disguising himself when visiting strange halls. Odin arrives at Geirrod's hall, calling himself Grimnir, the Masked One. Odin has a lot of names that he calls himself or that others call him. Remember right, there's at least 2 for every letter of the Futhark runes. Geirrod's methods of torture, starvation, and heat have been thought to recall shamanistic rituals allowing access to arcane knowledge kept hidden from the uninitiated. Such practices could have been known to the Scandinavians from their northern neighbors, the Lapps. On the 9th night, 9 is a magical number, Odin reveals himself. Geirrod realizes his mistake too late, as eventually happens to most Odinic proteges. The hero has lost his patron's favor and is doomed to die. Geirrod's son, Agnar, who significantly bears his uncle's name, and is now the same age as his uncle, was when the brothers encountered their divine protectors, has recognized the responsibilities of the host in giving Odin a drink, and the god's favor now falls on him. Like Vafthrundir's sayings, Grimnir's sayings is obsessed with mythological facts. The topography of the world of the gods, rather than its history, is revealed in Odin's monologue. Stimulated by heart and hunger, Odin gradually reveals his divinity, first through demonstrating his mastery of arcane knowledge, wide-ranging and compendious, thematically arranged to allude to his physical torment and the judgment and revenge which will result from it. Finally, after the crucial verse 45, in which Odin asserts that right relations of sacrifice and patronage have been restored between gods and men by Agnar's action, he identifies himself in all his guises. Like sayings of the High One, Grimnir sayings intends both to reveal mythological knowledge and to teach wisdom, a wisdom which comes too late for Geirrod, but which qualifies Agnar to become king in his father's place. So it's kind of another social wisdom kind of section, like from the High One. With the sort of mythological knowledge of Vathrandir's sayings. I'm gonna be so good at saying weird names at the end of this, man. I believe in myself. I can make it through. I can power through. Okay. Let's go through the little prose section here first. About the sons of King Hraudung. King Hraudung had 2 sons. One was called Agnar, and the other Geirrod. Agnar was 10 years old, and Geirrod 8. They both rowed out in a boat with rods and trailing lines to catch small fish. The wind drove them out to the ocean. In the dark that night they made landfall and went ashore. They found a crofter. They stayed there for the winter. The old woman fostered Agnar, and the old man Geirrod. In the spring the old man got them a ship, and when he and the old woman took them down to the shore, the old man spoke privately to Geirrod. They got a breeze and came to their father's harbor. Geirrod was forward in the ship. He jumped ashore and pushed the ship out and said, "Go where the evil one may take you." Ship was driven out, and Geirrod went up to the house. He was greeted joyfully. His father had died, and Geirrod was taken as king, became a splendid man. Odin and Frigg sat in Hildglaf and looked into all the world. Odin said, "Do you see Agnar, your foster son? They are raising children with a giantess in a cave. But Geirrod, my foster son, is king and rules over the land." Frigg says he is so stingy with food that he tortures his guests if it seems to him that too many have come. Odin says that he is the greatest lie. They wagered on the matter. Frigg sent her husband, Fulla, to Geirrod. She told the king to beware lest a wizard, who had come to the country, should bewitch him, and said he could be known by this sign, that no dog was so fierce that it would leap on him, that it was greatest slander that Geirrod was not generous with food. However, he had that man arrested whom no dog would attack. He was wearing a blue coat and called himself Grimnir, and would say nothing more about himself, though he was asked. The king had him tortured to make him speak, and set him between 2 fires, and he sat there 8 nights. Jesus Christ. Geirrod the king had a son who was 10 years old. He was called Agnar, after Geirrod's brother. Agnar went to Grimnir, and gave him a full horn to drink from, saying that the king was acting wrongly to have him, an innocent man, tortured. Grimnir drank it up. Then the fire had come so close that Grimnir's cloak burned, he said. And now we get into the poetic section here. "Hot you are, hurrying fire, and rather too fierce. Go away from me, flame. My fur cloak singes, though I lift it up. My mantle burns before me. 8 nights I have sat here between the fires, yet no one offered me food, except Agnar alone, and he alone shall rule, the son of Gerod, and he alone shall rule, the son of Gerod, the land of the Goths. Ah, I see. I read a little section twice there. Blessed shall you be, Agnar, since Odin bids you be blessed. For one drink you shall never get a better reward. The land is sacred which I see lying near the Aesir and the Elves. But Thrudheim Thor shall remain, until the powers are torn asunder. Udale it is called, the place where Ol has made a hall for himself. Alfheim the gods gave to Freyr, in bygone days as tooth payment. There is a third home, where the cheerful powers roofed the rooms with silver. Valaskilif is it called, where the gods designed for himself. In bygone days. Sokvabek is a fourth is called, and cool waves resound over it, where Odin and Saga drink daily, joyful from golden cups. Gladsheim as fifth is called, where gold-bright Valhall extends out widely, where Odin chooses every day those dead in combat. It's very easy to recognize for those who come to Odin to see how his hall is arranged. Spear shafts the building has for rafters. It's roofed with shields. Mail coats are strewn on the benches. That is some bold design choices. Grimheim the fifth is called, where Thyzi lived. The all-powerful giant, but now Skadi, the shining bride of the gods, lives in her father's ancient courts. Breidablik is the seventh, where Balder has made a hall for himself, in that land where I know there are the fewest runes of ill omen. Himinbjörg is the eighth, and there they say Heimdall rules over his sanctuaries, where the gods' glad watchman drinks good mead in the peaceful hall. Folkvang is the ninth, and here Freya fixes allocations of seats in the hall, half the slain she chooses every day, and half Odin owns. Glitnir is the 10th. It has golden buttresses and likewise is roofed with silver. There Forseti lives most days, and pulls to sleep all quarrels. Nautun is the 11th, where Njord has made a hall for himself. The prince of men, lacking in malice, rules a high timbered temple. Brushwood grows, and high grass and woods in Vidir's lands, and there the sun proclaims from his horse's back in his keenness to avenge his father. Anhrimnir has, Seimhrinir boiled and Eldmimir, the best of pork, but few know on what the Einherjar are nourished. Geri and Freki he satiates, the glorious father of hosts, trained in battle, but on wine alone the weapon magnificent Odin always lives. Hogan and Monan fly every day over the vast stretching world. I fear for Hogan that he will not come back, yet I tremble more for Monan. Thund roars, the great wolf's fish, swims happily in the stream. The river's current seem too strong for the slaughter horse to wade. Valgrind is called, standing on the plain, sacred before the sacred door. Ancient is that gate, but few men know how it is closed up with a lock. 500 doors and 40 I think there are in Valhall. 800 Einherjar will pass through a single door when they march out to fight the wolf. 500 daisies and 40, so I think Bilskirnir has in all. For all those halls which I know to be roofed, my son's I know is the greatest. Hadron is the goat's name, who stands on Father of Hosts Hall and browses on Laird's branches. He will fill a vat of shining mead that liquor cannot ever diminish. Ictherners is the hart's name, who stands on Father of Hosts Hall and browses on Laird's branches. From his antler there is dripping into Hivilgamere. From thence all waters make their way. Sid and Vid, Saken and Aiken, Svol and Gunthro, Fjorm and Fimblethol, Rin and Renati, Gopal and Gopal, Gommel and Givromel, they flow round the god's treasure hoard. Finn and Vin, Thol and Hol, Grad and Gunthron. Vin is the one's name, another Vegsvin, a third Thidma. Nit and Not, Non and Hron, Slid and Hrid, Slig and Yig and Lig, Vid and Van, Vord and Strond, Gjol and Lept, they fall close to men and flow down from here to hell. Kormt and Ormt, and the two Kerlager, these Thor must wait every day when he goes to give judgments at Yggdrasil's ash. For the Acer's bridge burns all with flames, the sacred waters boil. Oh, thank you, Aurora, for the hydrate. It's important to stay hydrated when reading a lot. Especially names you can stumble over like that. Glad and golden, glassy and skid brimere, silver tuft and sinear, gills and hidden hoof, gold tuft and lightfoot, these horses the Aesir ride every day when they go to give judgments at Yggdrasil's ash. 3 roots there grow in 3 directions under Yggdrasil's ash. Hell lives under one, under the second, the frost giants under the third, humankind. Ratatosk is the squirrel's name, who must scurry about on Yggdrasil's ash. The eagle's utterance he must bring from above and tell to Nidhogg below. There are 4 hearts too, who browse on his shoots, with their necks tilted back, Dane and Dvalin, Dunur and Darothor. More serpents lie under Yggdrasil's ash than any numbskull fool can imagine. Goin and Moin, they are Grafnir's sons, Grabek and Grafvolund, Ofnir and Svafnir, I think, forever will erode the tree's branches. Yggdrasil's ash suffers agony more than men know. A stag nibbles it above, at that side it's decaying, and Nidhogg rends it beneath. Frist and Mist, I wish would bear a horn to me. Skiggold and Skolgol, Hild and Thrud, Cluck and Hrofnor, Gol and Girglol, Rangrid and Radgrid and Rainslif, they bear Abel to the Einherjar. Arvak and Asvid, the slender ones, must pull the sun up from there, and under their shoulders the cheerful gods, the Aesir, have installed cooling iron. Zvalin he's called, who stands before the sun, a shield for the shining goddess. Mountain and sea I know would burn up if he fell away from there. Skoll, a wolf, is called, who pursues the shining goddess to the protecting woods. Another is Hati, who is Hrodventir's son, who must run before the heaven's bright bride. From Ymir's flesh the earth was made, from his blood the sea, mountains from his bones, trees from his hair, and from his skull the sky. and from his eyelashes the cheerful gods made Midgard for mid-suns. From his brain the hard-tempered clouds were all created. Ul's protection and that of all gods he has, the first one to seize the flames, for the worlds lie open over the sons of the gods when the kettles are lifted off. If all these suns in bygone days went to create Skilbladner, the best of ships for shining Freyr, Njord's beneficent son. Yggdrasil's ash is the most preeminent of trees, as a Skaldblur of ships, Odin's of the Aesir, Sleipnir of horses, Bilrost of bridges, Bragi of poets, Habrok of hawks, and Garm of dogs. Fleeting visions I have now revealed before the victory gods' sons. Now the wished-for protection will awaken, to all the Aesir will become known, on Aegir's branches, at Aegir's feet. I was called masked, I was called wanderer, I general and helm-wearer, known and third, Thund and Ud, hell-blind and high, steady and Svipul and Sangetel, war-merry and Hinikar, weak-eyed, flame-eyed, bulwark, Fjolnir, mask and masked one, Glaspvid and much wise. Oh, we're just going over Odin's different names right now. Holy shit. Broadheart, Broadbeard, Victory Father, Nikud, All-Father, Father of the Slain, Atrid and Burden God. By one name I have never been known since I went among the people. Grimnir they called me at Gerod's, and Alk at Osmod's, and then Kielar when I pulled the sledge, Throrer at the assembly, Vidor in battle, Oski and Omi, Equal High, and Biflindi, Bondlir and harbored among the gods, Svidir and Svidrir was called at Sokmanmirs. I tricked the old giant then, and I became Midvinir's favorite son, the Soul Slayer. Drunk are you, Gerod? You've drunk too much. You are bereft of much, of my support, that of all Einherjar are in Odin's favor. Much I told you, but little you remember. Friends have played you false. I see my friend's word is lying and spattered with his blood. The terrible one will now take a weapon-weary slaughtered man. I know your life is over. The Disrir are against you now. Now you may see Odin. Draw near to me if you can. Odin I am called now. Terrible one, I was called before. They called me Thund before that. Vulcan Skifling, Vafund and Hropteter. Gaut and Elk among the gods. Ofnir and Svafnir. All these, I think, stem from me alone. Back to a little prose section here at the end. Gerod the king sat with a sword on his lap, half drawn from the sheath. When he heard that it was Odin who had come there, he stood up and intended to pull Odin away from the fire. The sword slipped from his hand, hilt downwards. The king lost his footing and plunged forward, and the sword pierced him through, and he was killed. Odin disappeared, and Agnar was then king for a long time afterwards. Man had an accident. Wow. Like imagine you've got Odin strung up between two. Imagine you've got Odin strung up between two fires. You rise up, you fucking trip. You fucking trip and fall onto a sword and impale yourself on it. How embarrassing would that be? Kind of a shit king. We'll do We'll do one last section here. Yeah, we'll do one last section here. Then we will end for the day that I can prepare for leg day with friends. This last section we'll be doing today is Skinner's journey. Little description here. Freyr falls in love with a giant's daughter whom he sees from Odin's high seat, Lidskjalf. According to Snorri, his lovesickness is a punishment for usurping Odin's place, though the poem does not suggest this. Freyr's concerned parents, Nirod and Skadi, ask their son's old friend and servant, Skinner, the Shining One, to help. Skinner volunteers to go on a wooing mission, and after a remarkably smooth journey, effectively bullies the reluctant girl to agreeing to a rendezvous. Man, some of the stories are just, what the fuck. Snorri tells us in Yngling Saga that the pair married and had a son called Fjolnir, who was the ancestor of the Yngling dynasty of Norwegian kings, and that in handing his sword over to Skinner, Freyr leaves himself weaponless at Ragnarok. Although the poem has no special connection with wisdom, it is composed mostly on Lærdehatt or dialogue. Several scholars have thought that, with a succession of lively scenes, Skinner's journey may well have been intended for a dramatic presentation. Get some more coffee in me before we begin with the short prose section at the beginning. Really enjoying the stories of the Edda, you know. Very interesting. I mean, some of the sections get a bit tedious. All the naming sections. Oh my god. Those are rough. But I still find them so interesting. How much just information these first few have been filled with. But I guess it's kind of their point, right? To impart information about various things. To impart information about the gods. To information about the history of the world, about the future of the world, about just the land of the gods itself, you know? Some of these names are kind of killing me, though. I'm not gonna lie. Maybe I should, You know, I do have textbooks for Old Norse. Maybe I should crack those open. You know? Yeah. Skirnir's journey. Freyr, the son of Njord, had seated himself in Hisgildif and looked over all the world. He looked into Giant Land and saw there a beautiful girl as she was walking from her father's hall to an outbuilding. From that he caught great sickness of heart. Skirnir was the name of Freyr's page. Njord asked him to go and have a conversation with Freyr. Then Skadi said, "Get up now, Skirnir, and go ask to speak with our son, and ask this, with whom the wise man is so terribly angry." Skirnir said, "Harsh words I expect from your son, if I go talk to the young man and ask this, with whom the wise man is so terribly angry. Tell me, Freyr, war leader of the gods, for I would like to know, why do you sit alone in the long hall, my lord, day after day?" Freyr said, "Why should I tell you, young man, about the great sorrow of my heart? For the elf radiance shines day after every day, not according to my desires." Skirnir said, "I don't think your desires can be very great, that you, sir, cannot tell me. We were young together in bygone days. You and I may well trust each other." Freyr said, "In Gymir's courts I saw walking a girl pleasing to me. Her arms shine, and from them all the sea and air catch light. More pleasing to me is this girl than any girl to any young man in bygone days. Of all the gods and the elves, no one wishes that we should be together." Skirnir said, "Give me that horse which will carry me through the knowing dark, flickering flame, and that sword which fights by itself against the giant race." Freyr said, "I'll give you that horse which will carry you through the knowing dark, flickering flame, and that sword which will fight by itself. He who wields it is wise." Skirnir said to the horse, "It is dark outside. I declare it's time for us to go over the dewy mountains, through giant realms. We'll both get there, or the all-powerful giant will seize us both." Skirnir rode to giant land to Grimir's courts. There were savage dogs tied in front of the gate and the wooden fence surrounding Gerd's hall. He rode to where the herdsman was sitting on a mound and greeted him. "Tell me this, herdsman, as you sit on the mound and watch all the ways. How may I come to converse with the young girl, despite the dogs of Gymir?" The herdsman said, "Are you doomed, or are you dead already? Conversation you shall never have with Grimir's excellent daughter." Skirnir said, "The choices are better than simply sobbing for a man who's eager to advance. The choices are better than simply sobbing for a man who is eager to advance, for on one day will all my lifespan be shaped, all my days laid down." Gerd said, "What is the noise? Wait, who is Gerd? The first time I'm hearing of Gerd. I don't know. What is that noise of noises which I now hear making a noise in our dwellings? The earth trembles all over Gymir's courts. Shudder before it." The serving maid said, "There is a man out there dismounted from a horse. He's letting his horse graze." Gerd said, "Tell him to come into our hall and drink the famous mead, though I am afraid that out here may be our brother slayer." "Who are you, of the elves, or of the Aesir's sons, or of the wise Vanir? Or do you come alone over the wildfire to see our company?" Skirnir said, "I am not of elves or of Aesir's sons, or of the Vanir, though I come alone over the wildfire to see your company. Elven applies here. I have all of gold." 11. Let's try reading that section again. 11 apples I have here, all of gold. Those I will give you, Gerd, to buy your favor, that you may say, to you, Freyr's last loathsome man alive. 11 apples I will never accept at any man's desire. Nor will Freyr and I settle down together as long as our lives last." Oh, Gerd. Okay. So Gerd is the giantess that Freyr was smitten by. I see now. I see now that I've been dumb. Skirnir said, I shall give you a ring, the one which was burnt with Odin's young son. Jesus fucking Christ, Skirnir. What the fuck? Each are the equally heavy ones that drop from it every 9th night. Gerd said, I won't accept this ring, even if it was burnt with Odin's young son. I like no gold in Gymir's courts, my father's wealth at my disposal. Skirnir said, Do you see this sword, girl, slender, inlaid, which I have here in my hand? Your head I shall strike from your neck, unless you declare we are reconciled. Gerd said, Coercion I shall never endure at any man's desire, though I reckon this, if you and Gymir meet, keen fighters, a battle is bound to occur. Skirnir said, Do you see the sword, girl, slender, inlaid, which I have in my hand? Before these edges, the old giant will fall. Your father will be doomed. I strike you with a taming wand, I will tame you, girl, to my desires. There you shall go where the sons of men will never see you again. On an eagle's mound you shall sit from early morning, looking out of the world, hankering towards hell. Jesus Christ, man. Food shall be fouler to you than is the shining serpent to all living men. May you become a spectacle when you come out. May Hrimnir glare at you. May everything stare at you. Better known may you be than the watchman among the gods. May you gape through the bar. Man, what the fuck are you on about? Jesus Christ. Madness and howling, tearing affection and unbearable desire. May tears well up for you with grief. Sit down, for I shall tell you heavy tormenting craving and twofold grief. Friends will oppress you all long weary day in the giants' courts. To the hall of the frost giants every day you shall creep without choice, without hope of choice. Weeping you shall have for pleasure, and misery shall go with your tears. With three-headed ogre you shall linger out your life, or else be without a man. May your spirit be seized, may pining waste you away. Be like the thistle which is crushed at the end of the harvest. I went to the forest, to the sap-rich tree to get a magic twig. A magic twig I got. Odin is angry with you. Thor is angry with you. Freyr will hate you. Most wicked girl, you have brought down upon you the magic mighty wrath of the gods. Hear, O giants, hear, O frost ogres, Suttung Sungs, the Aesir band itself. How I forbid, how I deny. Pleasure is men to the girl, benefit from men to the girl. Grimnir he's called, the giant who will possess you, down below the corpse gate, where bondsmen will give you goat's piss at the tree roots. Finer drink you will never get, girl, at your desire. Girl, at my desire. Ogre I will carve for you in 3 runes. Lewdness and frenzy and unbearable desire. I can carve that off, as I carved that on, if there is need of this. Jesus fucking Christ, man. She didn't want to go with you. And you tell her she's gonna fucking drink goat's piss in hell? Fuck's sake. That's some incel shit. Jesus. Gerd said, Be welcome now, lad, and receive the crystal cup full of ancient mead, though I had never thought I should ever love one of the Vanir well. Skirnir said, All my errand will I know before I ride home from here, when you'll grant a tryst to Njord's vigorous son. Gerd said, Barri is the name as we both know of a wind-calm grove. After 9 nights there to Nirod's son, Gerd will give love's pleasure. Then Skirnir rode home, Freyr stood outside and greeted him, and he asked for news. Tell me, Skirnir, before you fling the saddle from the horse and you step a foot further, what you achieved in Giant Land, your desire or mine. Skirnir said, Bari is the name, as we both know, of the wind-calm grove, and after 9 nights there to Nerod's son, Gerd will give love's pleasure. Freyr said, Long is 1 night, longer 2. How shall I long through 3? Often a month to me has seemed less than half one of these wedding eves. And that's Skirnir's journey. Boy, it really got weird there in the middle. It really went off. So as I said, that's where we're going to end for the day, as I have to mentally prepare myself for League of Legends over at this channel here. There I'll be joined by Huntress Spectre herself, Elendari Komori, Sin7 Raf, and Victor Masato. All very pog, as the kids say. Thanks for the stream, really. Thank you for coming, Morbidoni. No one I see want to raid out. Well, I mean, probably shouldn't raid out to anyone if I want you to come join the suffering of League. Yes. Excellent. Thank you. Thank you for coming, and I hope to see you. I will have a schedule out tomorrow for the coming week. Hopefully, I will not be having any more internet issues for the foreseeable future, and we're past all of that. Hopefully. Alright, thank you everyone for coming, and I'll see you in the next one. Alright, goodbye.